My name is Barbara Hutchinson, and today I'm in conversation with Francois Vannerem, an associate dentist practicing in Wakefield, West Yorkshire. Francois has been instrumental in introducing digital capability into the practice, and for the last 3 years he has been carrying out clear aligner treatment. He recently moved system to SureSmile from Dentsply Sirona and talked to me about the reasons why and what SureSmile brings to the table, both clinically and in terms of patient benefits. So you've been treating patients with aligners for quite a while now. Was it always the case that you were always interested in orthodontics, or what was it that made you decide to really focus on this as part of your general practice?
To be honest, I was never really interested in ortho to start off with. At uni, I always thought it was a bit boring and a bit slow. And I always liked the kind of instant results you get from restorative dentistry, which is the bit I'm really interested in. And it was a bit of an accident, to be honest, at a trade show a few years ago at the NEC in Birmingham at one of the dentistry shows. There were loads of ortho providers with their stalls out, like Invisalign, ClearCorrect, CFast, all these kind of people. And on a bit of a whim, just joined the Invisalign course and then started doing some simple cases. And it made me realize actually it is quite interesting, and it allows you to do all of the other work that I enjoy doing, all the restorative side of things, because I don't get many patients who wouldn't benefit from a little bit of pre-restorative ortho, who don't have small bits of relapse or malalignment or positional issues where they would benefit from braces before restorative treatment, and then started doing more and more of that kind of case. And the more you do, the more people talk to each other and friends and family get on board, and it's now much more of a part of my working day.
So you started off with Invisalign, but you made the switch to SureSmile, I think, around 6 months ago. So what were your main reasons for switching from a big, very recognized system like Invisalign to the SureSmile system?
So to be honest, the main reason I switched over to start off with was scanning, because we've had some CEREC scanners in the practice for a few years, and I was scanning basically everything, all my restorative work. I was scanning, but I was still taking PBS impressions and sending them off to Invisalign, and it's slow. It's you have to fill in all the forms, give it to reception, they have to call to get the impressions picked up, and it takes ages to get to them, and then you get impressions rejected, have to get the patient back in, and it's all a big faff. And I really just wanted to get scanning, and it was Simon from Dentsply who suggested I try SureSmile, and then got in touch with Libby, who sorted everything out for me, and started scanning with SureSmile and found that the workflow, it's such an open system, it can accept scans from any scanner, but with CEREC in particular, the workflow is so seamless that it saved me a lot of time and makes my day a lot more enjoyable. It was only once I started using that actually I realized there are a lot of features that I really enjoy about SureSmile. But it was scanning that was the main bit that made me start with it.
Is the software easy to use? Is it quite intuitive?
The software is really intuitive. To be honest, what I really like about SureSmile is how flexible it is. You can do, I liken it a little bit to Apple versus Android, in that you can go into all the settings and make your own personal preferences. So what I really like is your ability to put in all your own personal preferences for the simulation outcomes. So on the macros section, if people haven't used SureSmile before, you can basically put what your preferences are for the simulation outcomes. And for example, I can kind of put what my midline preferences are, what the arch form I want, class resolutions, occlusal plane, prescriptions, specific instructions, and it just means that the first simulation or clin check, if you like, that you get back is a lot more personalized, a lot better than some of the ones that you get back from other companies. And obviously you can then go in and change things to tweak it, but that original one is much better already. So you're starting off at a much better level. Then there's a lot of different things that you can change to your own preferences within the software. So, for example, being able to choose the scalloped versus straight trim line. I really like that feature because you get much better whitening results with the straight finish line, because it's a bit like having really tight, well-fitting whitening trays. If you've got scalloped edges, the whitening gel just leaks out the sides and you end up with yellow cervical margins and white incisal edges, which is what I found with some of the other systems. And that was what patient feedback was like as well. But when you have the straight edge, it seals really well and you get better whitening results. I found with the straight edge as well, you don't have to use as many attachments, and it's not as obvious, because the finish level is above the level of the patient's smile. A lot of the time you don't see that scalloped edge, and they're a lot kind of stiffer, so you can get certain movements done better. I think the payment options being quite flexible is a big factor as well, which is one of the reasons I quickly moved over to SureSmile as well, especially for new users, where you've got the 3 options of DIY versus select option versus the complete. So the complete is more like the Invisalign, where you pay for a certain set. Well, all of the aligners are included for a set fee, but for the patients where you only need, say, 5 aligners, the really minor alignment cases, then you're still paying full whack. If it's with another company, you're still paying for the whole amount. Whereas with Select, with SureSmile, you can just pay per aligner. It means it works out either a lot cheaper for the patient, which you can pass it on to the patient, or a lot more profitable. So either way.
How about the planning tools within SureSmile? Are they easy to use? Are they easy to pick up? How much kind of orthodontic knowledge, if you like, do you feel that you need to get involved in SureSmile?
I think to use the software, you don't really need any, but obviously in order to do ortho, you need a fair amount of knowledge. And if you're starting out in ortho, I definitely recommend a system where you're mentored through your first few cases. And I know SureSmile teams up with Tiff Qureshi to go through some of the basics of using aligners and how to use SureSmile, but the software itself is really easy to use. And modifications are quite easy. You can either just type them into the box and ask the technician to make those modifications for you, or you can, if you want to get a bit more involved, click on teeth, move them yourself into the position that you want them to be, and then the software will just do the rest for you and work out the IPR, work out the aligners for you. So either way, you can let the software do as much or as little as you want, and let the technician have as much input as they want as well.
And when the treatment plans come back and they're approved, do you have complete confidence in what you're going to receive in terms of the aligners?
Yeah, 100%. I've done quite a few now, and I've never really had any issues. Obviously, occasionally you need some refinements, but I'm actually finding I'm doing fewer and fewer refinements. But that's obviously also to do with the more you know, the more predictable movements you do, and the better you are at treatment planning. And it's all in the treatment planning stage. But generally, I'm fairly confident that what I get in the pack is what the result that I'm going to get.
Do you think, SureSmile, you said at the beginning that you thought ortho was a bit boring when you were at uni, but has SureSmile changed that for you? Has it made it a more interesting discipline, do you think?
Yeah, it definitely has. It's made it a lot more enjoyable because, as I said, the workflow is just seamless, and I can scan now faster than it would take one PVS impression to set a full mouth, and I can probably scan a full mouth faster than it would take my nurse to get all the bits out of the cupboard. So it's just made that part of the work so much more enjoyable, and I love the digital side of things. So being able to design everything on the computer is really nice, and the fact that a lot of the treatment planning is done when the patient's not in the chair, so it's a lot less stressful. The first appointment, you're basically gathering all your records, taking photos, taking records, and taking scans, and then I do a lot of my treatment planning with a coffee at lunch or at home later on, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because you're able to take your work home with you. I don't know, it depends what your work-life balance is like, but that's made things a lot more enjoyable and more seamless for the patient.
Do you think that it's helping you deliver a better patient experience?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think we're able to deliver treatments faster. Not that that's the be all and end all, but a lot of patients, especially nowadays, are wanting everything done yesterday. And especially millennials, the younger patients, they're used to just having everything done immediately. And with traditional orthodontics, although you have to take your time with the treatment planning and with certain stages, the fact that everything's just sent instantly means that patients can get started with the treatment a lot quicker. So it's definitely revolutionized that side of things.
And what do your patients think about the intraoral scanner? Is it something that they're aware of? Is it something that they're expecting when they turn up at the dentist, or do you still get people? Does it still have that kind of wow factor?
Yeah, it still does, because patients have never had that before. And seeing their teeth from all sorts of different angles that they've never seen before, a lot of the time their initial reaction is, oh, I can't believe my teeth look like that, which is a big factor in getting people on board with the aligners in the first place, because they're not used to seeing their teeth so crooked from the occlusal aspect. But also being able to scan and see their teeth on the scanner, treatment plan together in the room, rather than just sending off some impressions in a box. Yeah, it's definitely, the wow factor is still there, because most people have never had a scan.
Does SureSmile improve patients' compliance? Are you able to show them where they're going to get to and what their smile's going to look like at the beginning to kind of keep motivating them? And does the comfort of the aligner, does that make a difference for them? Is there something within the material that you think makes it a little bit more acceptable for patients?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I think it does, because they're actually harder to get out with the straight finish line, which means patients just can't be bothered taking them out. They're less visible because I think the SureSmile aligners, the models they're printed on are printed with a much higher resolution, so you don't get those little lines that you see on normal aligners from other companies, and it means they're a lot clearer, especially with the finish line above the gingival margin. So I've had a couple of patients actually say that they're less inclined to take them out for face-to-face meetings, because literally no one can tell they're in. Whereas with other companies, I know a few of my patients have wanted to take them out for important meetings or calls, because people can see them. I've definitely found the material stiffer than some of the other aligner systems, which means you can get certain movements done a bit better. Having said that, at the start, it does make it a little bit more difficult for the patient to get them in and out, which for compliance, I think is a good thing, and then they just get used to it. Otherwise, it's really down to the individual patient. Some will be compliant and others not, and it depends how much you hammer home the importance of wearing them. And that's the one thing I always say is the most important thing to the patient, is wearing them for the right amount of time, because it's the one thing that will make it not work properly. So I've had really good experiences with that in terms of how invisible they are and compliance generally. And I like how compliance wise in SureSmile, you get a lot of stuff in the starter box. As silly as that sounds, you get chewies and aligner removal tools and things like that, which I think is a nice touch. And having the chewies included, and they can keep them in the box, it encourages patients to get chewing on them, and when they've got a bit of time in the evening, which will really help that movement.
So what would your advice be for a young dentist who was interested in offering ortho and clear aligner treatment?
I'd say get on some courses and learn about how aligners work, because it's not something you can just dive into and let the aligner company do all the work for you, because you're still the one treatment planning, and you're still the one at the end of the day who's responsible for the outcomes. So you have to know what you're doing. I'd get on a platform that offers mentoring and courses and material for teaching. For example, SureSmile teaming up with TIFF Qureshi and get using the forums for all your new cases so that you're mentored through your first cases and you'll learn loads. There's so many good resources on SureSmile U, the teaching section of SureSmile, and things like dentinal tubules. There's loads of good material on there. And then you've got things like, if you want to take it to the next level, aligner and ortho diplomas to take it that one step further. But I think you need to have a little bit of knowledge before going in and doing those cases, which is why having a mentor is so important. But I quite like the fact that, like I mentioned before, with the different payment options, because you've got that select option, you can start with really simple cases, some really minor misalignment cases, and just pay per aligner, make your lab bill really low, pass that on to the patient, and just start off with some simple cases where the patient isn't paying anything or barely paying anything, and it just really takes the pressure off those first few cases.
Do you think over the next couple of years it will become kind of an essential part of every GDP's toolbox, really, to be able to offer aligners?
I think so. I think people are missing a trick. GDPs are missing a trick if they're not providing a little bit of ortho, even if it's just really simple. I think there are a lot of simple cases that GDPs can be really helpful with, and I see a lot of practices competing with each other for patients, but it's going to become so common. I really don't think we need to be competing for patients. We're going to get more and more people becoming more aware. The more patients have braces, the more acceptable it becomes, and the more people talk about their aligners and show friends and family. So it's going to become much more commonplace, and pretty much everyone that I see could benefit from some sort of alignment, even if it's just minor pre-restorative or tweaking here and there. So I definitely think it's going to become more commonplace.
Do you envisage that SureSmile will remain kind of part of that whole restorative treatment, or do you think you will venture, further and further into orthodontics?
I think more of the same, to be honest. It's really the kind of work I enjoy doing, and I think the more ortho training you do, the more you realise the more respect you have for specialist orthodontists. And I'm quite happy doing the more simple cases. You can take it to whatever level you want with SureSmile, from the tiny cases to much more complex. The software will allow you to do what you want, really. But I'm happy doing the more anterior cosmetic simple cases. And I can see lots more of it coming in the future, and I'm happy referring out the more complex stuff. For me personally, I do want to start taking it to the next level with integration of digital smile design into the ortho platform, to make treatment outcomes more predictable, so I can picture exactly where the teeth are ending up within the patient's face, which I admit I don't do enough of at the minute. And also because I work in quite a big implant practice, although I don't do any implants myself, I do want to start integrating CT scans into the platform as well, because I'm getting a few patients where the implant guys are asking me to align things prior to implant placement, and I need to know where the roots are.
Obviously, SureSmile is Dentsply Sirona's aligner system. How have they been in terms of supporting you since you've been a SureSmile user?
All credit to Simon Hughes and Libby Fields at Dentsply from that side of things, because they've made the transition so smooth, and the customer service is second to none. I think with some of the systems, things can get a little lost in the system, and now I can just send a quick WhatsApp to Libby and it's sorted. It's funny because there's one example of this where it's such a tiny thing, but it's been going on for so long with one of the other systems, where I've been trying to get my email changed from my personal email to my work email address, so that all these simulations go to my work email. And I've been calling and emailing, and on the website, the box is too small for my work email. And each time they respond and say, yeah, it's done. You'll start getting them to your work email. Yeah, it's all sorted. And I'm still getting them after 3 years to my personal email address. And it's just something like that that's so small that with SureSmile, I can just email one of the guys or WhatsApp them, and it'll just be sorted straight away. And they've just set up a SureSmile users WhatsApp group, which I can see being quite useful for updates and questions, especially for new users as well. So the support is really good.
Okay, that's actually a really good idea, isn't it? A WhatsApp group for users, just to be able to ask questions of your peers and just kind of run things past other people, especially when you're kind of new to the system.
Yeah, it's like any new system. All the buttons are in different places, all the software is slightly different. You don't know where stuff is, and even though it's quite intuitive, you need someone there to answer questions quickly, so that even just really simple stuff, so that you can just progress with the case quickly without any delays.
So that's all we have time for today, but I'd like to thank Francois for taking the time to talk with me and for sharing his experiences. And if that's whetted your appetite for clear aligner treatment, why not discover more about SureSmile and book a one-to-one consultation with one of Dentsply Sirona's specialists? Simply visit www.dentsplySirona.com/SureSmile Consult. Thank you and goodbye.